today we're talking about yoga, eight limbs of yoga, and how we can apply them in our daily lives. Because we can often hear the phrase, yoga is not asana practice. We're not just an asana practice, and we're so much more. But for years I've been practicing without actually understanding what else was there. Yeah, and it was only when I learned more about eight limbs of yoga, I actually got a bit of a deeper understanding of what that is. And yeah, so we'll start with a quick grounding exercise so that we are all focused and concentrated before the info session. So let's sit down comfortably and close our eyes. Take a deep breath in and sigh it out. Another deep breath in and out. One more deep breath in and out. Exhale all your worries, everything that has been bothering you today. Come back to your natural breathing. And feel how your belly expands and how it contracts when you exhale. Focus on your breath, on the tip of your nose, how the breath comes in and out. Feel the earth under your body. Feel how the earth is touching your feet, your legs. And just draw the attention inwards. Notice how your body is relaxing, how your mind is starting to relax as well. Now put your palms together in front of your heart center. And just start creating some heat by rubbing your palms one another. And place your palms over your eyes. Gently open your eyes. And you can release your hands down. And slowly, slowly come back. Great. I hope everyone is feeling a bit more relaxed, grounded, and ready to listen. So let me just share my screen. I have some visual aid. Okay, let me know when you can see a screen. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so just to begin with, what is yoga? What does it mean from in Sanskrit? Basically, The word yoga comes from Sanskrit word yug, which means union. So it's a union of our body, mind, and soul. So yoga, like the system of yoga and philosophy of yoga, has been created to release us from suffering and bring our body, mind, and soul into harmony. And when we have that balance, our life is much more pleasant. Let's say initially it has been created to kind of achieve enlightenment at the end. But for us, it doesn't have to be the main goal. Doesn't have to be enlightenment. It can just be like a calm mind, like more focused mind, inner peace, or just happier life in general. And so we'll go through 8 limbs, like kind of steps towards enlightenment, but we can use those steps and principles just in our daily lives to create a better, more harmonious life. And okay. Yeah, so I just read recently somewhere, and I really liked this quote, that yoga is being able to give you 100% to whatever you're doing without any distraction. Because very often we might be doing 5 different things at the same time without actually like focusing on one, like our 100%. And yoga like really helps us like with that focus and concentration and being being able to be present for the people around us and for the things that we are doing, or like focusing on our goals. So it just kind of brings us into this moment of now. And so how can we achieve that? So we have a system of 8 limbs of yoga, and I kind of in my mind there are 3 different categories, and the very base is morals and discipline. So it's yamas and niyamas. So as you can see, asana, like the physical poses and practices, is not even at the bottom, not the first limb. Because in the yoga system it's believed that first you have to have a discipline and ethical principles and your kind of behavior and morals in place before you start practicing the physical practices. And so just a reminder that yoga is not a religion. There's no like gods or deities like that you need to kind of believe in. And if you have like your own religion, and if you're practicing any religion, there's no clash with yoga. So anyone can practice yoga, whether you're practicing any religion actively or not. So the first limb is yamas. So it's kind of the moral codes and restraints and principles that guide us towards outside. So like that's how we treat others and the world around us. There are 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. So you could say that it's like 10 commandments. But like you'll see that some of them are quite similar, some of them are different. And what I like about yamas and niyamas is that we go a little bit deeper, and you can have like some really practical tools from there. So let's go into the first yama, which is ahimsa, and kind of when we translate it directly from Sanskrit, it's kind of non-violence and non-harm. So if you interpret it directly, it's like not killing, not causing harm to other beings. But it can also mean and promote compassion and understanding of other beings and yourself. So it's very important to understand that we can apply ahimsa externally and internally as well. So external, it's kind of not causing harm to others, and internal is also looking at yourself with compassion and empathy, because sometimes we could be like really nice to other people, but it could be like our worst or our own worst critics. So we need to be kind to ourselves as well. And so one of the ways how yoga recommends to practice ahimsa is through the vegetarian diet. So you might know that yoga comes from India, and in India, vegetarian diet is quite popular. But this is just like a personal choice. I'm not too strict about it, because in warmer climates, it's much easier to practice and to be a vegetarian. But if you live in a colder climate, you might need to kind of sustain your body. So this is just a recommendation, and just like one of the ways you can practice ahimsa, but yeah, just a more of a personal choice. The next one is like the way you can practice ahimsa is observing your hurtful thoughts, words, and actions directed towards others and yourself as well, because we can hurt, it's not only the physical harm that we might cause to other people, but sometimes words and even harmful thoughts can hurt us or others around us. So just like being aware of those thoughts and words and whatever we say or communicate to other people, and being aware of those. And then also, like this one comes together, is just thinking before you speak when you're angry or frustrated, because sometimes like I like to use this analogy of, like the gap, like when the reaction, when something happens, sometimes we react straight away and there's no gap between that event and your reaction. So what yoga and kind of observing your thoughts and reactions does, and like the meditation and all the other practices of yoga, is like kind of, it helps you to increase this gap between the event and your reaction. So if you have the larger the gap, the more mindful your reaction could be. So you don't need to explode right away and then be sorry of like the things that you say and do when you're angry or frustrated with another person. And yeah, and then ahimsa also teaches us to cultivate compassion for ourselves and those around us. The next one is satya. So it's a principle of truthfulness, and it encourages us to speak our truth and keep our promises, and being honest with others and ourselves. So it's like a principle of like not lying, not telling lies, but it can also be directed to other people and to ourselves. So the way we can practice it is like being honest with ourselves. Just if we are in a certain situation that we might feel that something is not right, but we've been constantly kind of lying to ourselves that, oh, like it's okay, there's nothing wrong. So this principle kind of encourages us to ask those questions: is this situation or this relationship, this friendship or job, is it serving me, and am I like happy in this situation, or do I need to change something about it? So that's like the best way to practice satya with yourself. And then also admitting when you need help and asking for it, because often we also we try to be so strong and pretend that everything is okay, and when we actually might need help from the outside. So satya really helps us to be honest with ourselves and give ourselves permission to ask for that help if we need it, because there are some things in life that we might not always be able to handle ourselves, and there's nothing wrong about asking for help from others. Then another way to practice it is setting boundaries with other people as well. So oftentimes we think that yogi is very nice, and you have to be nice and kind to everyone, but that doesn't mean that you can't have boundaries. So it's very important in order to give, like to be kind to others, you have to protect your own energy, and setting boundaries is very important, so that you don't waste that energy on things that you don't need to. So basically, in order to give, you have to have your own cup full first. So setting boundaries is very important for that. And then also keeping promises. So if you made a promise to yourself or another person, I don't know, that you're gonna wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning and do a workout. And so that's what you do, and you keep the word. And also taking responsibility for your actions. So if something happens, sometimes our first instinct is to blame something else, like something outside of us. But if something happens because of and it's the fault of ours, the Satya encourages us to take that responsibility if it's our fault. And then the remaining three principles is Asteya, Aparigraha, and Brahmacharya. So Asteya is like non-stealing of things and ideas or time of energy of others. So the way we practice it is obviously not stealing like physical things, but also in the modern world it could be applied in non-stealing or not taking credit of other people's ideas, not plagiarizing or taking or copying other people's ideas of projects, or like if we see something that someone else has created, so it's not copying that, and embracing our own authentic selves, because whatever like we are all capable of creating something beautiful. So yeah, Asteya just encourages us not to take other people's ideas, and embrace our own creative power, and also appreciating other people's time and energy. So this could be when someone comes, I don't know, at work. It could be when they come to you to gossip about something, or when you feel the urge to go to someone else and gossip. Like before doing that, we can ask ourselves, like, is this like really a good use of my and someone else's time, and is it not wasting someone else's or my time? Then the next one is aparigraha. So it's non-hoarding or non-greed and non-attachment to the things and material possessions. So like the way to practice it could be kind of like cleaning out your closet, giving away, selling, or donating things that you no longer need or use. So it's just having this clean space, like it kind of clears your mind as well, because if your space is dirty and is full of things, so is your mind. So it's just kind of non-hoarding like of the things in your physical space. But it can also be practiced by like donating to charity or supporting causes or like people that are in need. But it doesn't have to be like financial support. It can be the support like, or like donating your time and energy, and also volunteering. And or sharing of information, and not keeping everything to yourself. So yeah, so like what I'm doing now, I guess this principle encouraged me to kind of share that information, because I'm like famous for hoarding information and like reading and keeping everything for myself. So I think that's a very good way for me to share that information as well. Yeah, and the last one is Brahmacharya, so it's the right use of energy. Initially, when the yoga system was created, Brahmacharya was more like celibacy, so like controlling your sexual energy. But in the modern times, it's interpreted more like the right use of energy and observing where your energy goes, and kind of questioning and observing like where you spend your time. Because sometimes we spend a lot of time maybe on our phones, like watching Netflix, on things that don't really serve me and like don't help us to like achieve our goals. So this really helps us to to question and prioritize our time. Yeah, and then this one also talks about protecting our energy and filling our cup, our own cup first, and doing things that bring us more energy. So yeah, so the next limb is niyamas. So if yamas were concentrated more like to the outer world, niyamas are more like focused on ourselves. And this is kind of like discipline, habits, or like positive duties that yoga system is recommending for you to do to live a healthy and a happy life. And the first niyama is saucha, and it's translated as cleanliness. And it doesn't have to be just like physical cleanliness, but also cleanliness of the body, mind, and speech, and getting rid of your negative habits. So the first way to practice is obviously a healthy diet, so whatever we put in our body, and also cleaning up our environment. So just like in the previous principle, in the yamas, we are kind of all interconnected. So you might see the same things in several principles, and that's the beauty of the system, that we are all each other. We all support each other, and you can practice them at different stages of your journey. Yeah, and then another way to practice saucha is watching and like observing your thoughts, because if you actually pay attention to like all the thoughts that are going on in our head like all day long, you might notice that there are like several thoughts that are the same and they are repeating all over and over. And once you observe them, you might decide that you might not like the thoughts that you're constantly surrounded with. And that's the beauty of yoga as well, that once you observe and once you're aware of those thoughts and all the limiting beliefs that you have in your head, it doesn't mean that you have to stay with them all the time, and then you have a power to change them. And yeah, then the next one is avoiding gossip and drama. So whatever you like, this is like a cleanliness of your speech. So whatever comes out of your mouth and like whatever you're communicating to the world. So you just watching like the things that you say, and if those things that you say actually bring value to anyone. Because in here, if we gossip like about someone else behind their back, nothing can really change. So if we have a problem with someone, it's just better to just go to them directly and tell them directly. Practice satya, the truthfulness, and speaking our truth to those people. Only then something can change. Otherwise, if we just gossip about someone else and we never know or find out, nothing can change. Yeah, and when we gossip, it's like we are spending our energy on things that don't really serve us, and they're kind of like they don't contribute to the cleanliness of our speech and mind. And the last one is more like practical, like more related to our body. So like cleansing practices like neti. I don't know, you might have seen, you know, like the neti pot where you put the water in and you cleanse your nostrils, where you put the water in through one nostril and then it comes out through another, and vice versa. So that's a neti practice. Like it really helps you to cleanse your sinuses. Then Kapalbhati pranayama, it's a cleansing, detoxifying breathing exercise that we'll do. I think this Sunday we'll have a pranayama session, so we'll have an option to try it. And Trataka, so we'll also try it in the meditation practice, which is a cleansing of the eyes. So when you focus on the flame, on the candle flame, without trying to close your, like, without trying not to close your eyes or not to blink too much, that's how like you cleanse your eyes. Because if you try not to blink for too long, for a longer period of time, you'll see that tears start coming out of your eyes, and that's a very cleansing practice. It's not that easy, but your eyes feel quite nice afterwards. Yeah, the second niyama is santosha, so it's the principle of contentment. So kind of being happy and content with what you already have, without being kind of like too sad or disappointed of like what you don't have yet. And it's just kind of like moving towards your goal with like from a place of abundance rather than from lack. So contentment doesn't mean that I'm happy like with where I am at the moment and I'm not doing anything else and like I'm kind of giving up, but it's just appreciating and celebrating of like what I've already achieved and where I am at the moment, and know like using those resources that I already have to move forwards. So one of the best ways to practice santosha is practice of gratitude. So it could be either journaling and you know, writing down 5 things that you're grateful for today, or gratitude meditation. So also going through the things like good things that happened to you in like during the day or during the last week or month, and so on. And just really celebrating the little things. It doesn't have to be like something huge every time. It could be a small thing like sun is shining today, it's warm today, or I had a watermelon today, or a nice cup of tea, and that's what I'm grateful for today. Yeah, so celebrating small wins, and giving yourself permission for those little to celebrate and be happy for those little things, because sometimes we think like, oh, like I can't celebrate, or like this is not worth celebrating because it's not big enough, and we only celebrate the big things, but the beauty is in celebrating and kind of appreciating those little moments in life as well. Then also not comparing yourself to others, because we're all on our different timelines. So once we start comparing ourselves with others, like our contentment goes goes away. So we just have to acknowledge that we are on our own timeline, and it might take a bit longer for us to get somewhere than for someone else. But it that doesn't mean that we're somehow worse than another person. And in the time that we achieved something that we want, we've achieved something else. So we just need to acknowledge that we are all unique and different, and there are no shoulds in here. So because we are on our own timeline, on our own path. And also adopting the growth mindset. So whenever something unpleasant happens that we might consider as failure, we look at it as a lesson. So what I've learned in that situation, and what I can take out of the situation, and how I can move forward with that lesson so that it doesn't happen again, or like what is the thing that I can do better. Also, instead of thinking that I'll be happy when something happens, just like learning how to be happy already in this moment, and appreciating like how far we've come already, and what we've already achieved, and what we've already created. So it's a really nice principle. I really like this one, and I think that's the one that I need to remind myself of the most, because it's so easy just to chase the big things and wins, and forget about the little things and the little wins that happen every day in our lives. And the last three niyamas are tapas. So this is not a Spanish food, although that's making me a bit hungry now thinking about it. So tapas is like our discipline, the inner fire, or like motivation. And the best way to practice tapas is to work on our core. So core is our like solar plexus. So that's where our inner fire is, based on the chakra system. So core work is the best to kind of ignite that our inner fire, like inner motivation. And also like taking care of our physical health by doing asana practice and pranayama. So that also really helps like for us to move that energy within us, and to create that heat in the body. And also tapas is very big on kind of taking consistent, like small and consistent steps, rather than one big step and then not doing something for a long time. So it's better to do just like very small thing consistently, rather than think of like a huge thing that you can do. Yeah, like this goes together very well with building good habits. So consistency again, and with inner motivation and enthusiasm is like there's the saying that be afraid and do it anyway. So even if you're very afraid, you have this inner critic in your head, like that you shouldn't do something, but like after doing it anyway, regardless of your fear, like it feels really good, and it creates even more motivation afterwards. So that's like a very nice way to practice tapas. And then the next one is svadhyaya, so self-study. And initially, this was about studying and reading the ancient like scriptures and philosophical texts. But currently, like in the modern world, it's also interpreted as understanding yourself more and studying yourself, like your inner world. So one of the best ways is journaling. Like a daily journaling practice is like really helps you to get to know yourself. One of the best ways like to journal is to write at least 3 pages, or at least 2, like more than 1. 3 pages might sound like a lot to some people, but yeah, like when you start writing 1 page, you usually write, oh, like this has happened to like in my day. But after that first page, you things from your subconscious start coming out. So once you write that first page, on the second and the third pages, you start seeing maybe some limiting beliefs that are coming out, or like the thoughts that are repeating. So it's really nice to journal and to kind of track like where your mind is at with journaling. And then with self-study, like it's also important to pay attention to our thoughts and actions and habits. So yeah, so just getting to know yourself and becoming aware. So I think like the kind of recurring theme through all of these principles is just like awareness of the self and your mind, because the only thing for us to change something that we might not like is to become aware at first, and then we can change our thoughts and behaviors afterwards, because we can't change what we are not aware of. Yeah, so that's like with limiting beliefs. And as I mentioned, it's like a reading of spiritual and philosophical texts. So it's like a study and like kind of like a constant improvement on ourselves. And the last niyama is Ishvara Pranidhana. So this is kind of like surrendering to the higher power and trusting that, trusting the universe. It's could be like kind of releasing control, because we often try to control everything, and but there are things that are beyond our control. So this principle just kind of teaches us to do everything in our power, to put like all the effort, like still, like it's not like, oh, like, okay, I'm just gonna sit back and trust that something is gonna happen. It's like we put like all the effort and do everything in our power to achieve something, let's say, and then we trust that it is going to happen. It's like kind of that higher power will take care of it. Yeah, because yeah, we often get too attached to the outcome that is beyond our control. So this principle just teaches us to release that control from time to time, and enjoy the process a bit more. Cool. And yeah, so the next three principles are principles that are related to the body. Sorry, I left the Lithuanian text. It should say limbs of yoga. Yeah, so basically these principles are related to the body, because the first ones were kind of moral principles, ethics, and so that's the foundation for our practice. And then once we have that foundation and we have that mindset that we are in, then we can start practicing these physical practices. So like we're not going to spend too much time on asana, because I guess that's the most well-known limb of yoga. So any physical practice that you might go to a yoga studio, or like that we've done already, all the sun salutations, like all the physical poses and exercises, that's an asana practice. But like what's very interesting is that asana has been, at first it has been created to prepare a body for meditation. So we are preparing our body like to be flexible, strong enough to sit in a comfortable seated position for a longer time. Because if our body is not flexible enough, like we can't cross our legs, our hips are not open, so we can't sit in meditation for longer periods of time. And the same with our back. So you might notice that if your body is not strong enough and not prepared, your back might start rounding, and that's very uncomfortable when you're trying to sit in a meditation. So if we translate the word asana directly from Sanskrit, it means seat. And then, so initially it meant just like a seat. But now, but throughout the last century, I think mostly it has been developed to a more advanced practice, and we have all these different types of asanas now. So from just from seated, like now we have standing, supine, prone, twisting, balancing, core strengthening, and all the other types of asanas that you will see and experience in an asana practice. So just preparing our body and making it strong and flexible for the further practices afterwards. So you will see that asana is just the third step of the many, and there's so much more beyond that. And the fourth limb is pranayama. So it's a kind of breath work, breath control. And prana means like life force of energy, or energy that flows in our body. So you'll see in this illustration here that there are these lines, so-called energy channels or nadis. So the main one that is straight, that goes from the bottom of our back to the top of our head, is a Sushumna Nadi. So that's the main energy channel where our prana or life force flows through our body. And that's why we say that when we are meditating in a kind of formal, official meditation, you need to have your back straight, because otherwise, if your back is not straight, your Sushumna Nadi is not straight, and then the energy can't flow properly. When the energy doesn't flow properly, it's very difficult for us to meditate. Not difficult, I think even impossible, because then we get like too distracted by other things, because energy is not flowing freely. And then we have Pingala Nadi. The yellow one is responsible for our right nostril. So that's our sun energy. And that's more like active energy, so associated with our action. And Ida Nadi is our moon energy, so the left nostril. And that is more passive, kind of more relaxing energy. And so pranayama, what it does is kind of balances both of those energies and kind of harmonizes them within our body. Because if we have too much of the sun energy, then we might become like too active, like our mind is too active. It's very difficult to concentrate. Can even we can even become aggressive if we have too much of that energy, and kind of restless. Whereas with too much of the moon energy and like that passive energy, we can become kind of lethargic, like unmotivated, unable to take action. So it's not good when we have too much of either of those energies. So what pranayama does is just helps us to balance those energies in our body, and then we can be like have that energy to act, but that energy will be balanced, and we're not gonna be like all over the place, and the moon energy will help us like to be more focused. And yeah, so that is what pranayama does to our energy. So it just kind of takes care of like the flow of energy, and you'll see there will be different breathing exercises for different cases. So some of them, for example, Kapalbhati that we talked about in the Saucha principle, is like a cleansing, detoxifying breathing exercise. There's Nadi Shodhana, which is kind of calming exercise. Then there are cooling, there are kind of heating exercise, breathing exercises. So there are like loads of different techniques for different situations. And in the pranayama session, we'll try a couple of those as well. So that is pranayama, and so we are slowly preparing our body for meditation, and we are moving to the fifth limb of yoga, which is pratyahara. And that means kind of withdrawal of the senses, and this is the state where our senses no longer distract us. So we might like the good illustration is like a turtle that kind of takes the kind of goes into the shell, and kind of withdraws from the world. So it kind of focuses the attention from the outside to the inside. And one of the best ways to practice this is in Shavasana. So we always, after the asana practice, we have a Shavasana, like 3 to 5 minutes of Shavasana. just laying in a relaxing corpse pose. And that really helps us to withdraw from the senses from the outer world, because we close our eyes. So that's one of our main senses. Because when we have our eyes open, we are like very focused to the outer world, because we can constantly see what's going on. So we're not really focusing on the inner world. So once we close our eyes, it really helps us to kind of draw the attention inwards. And that doesn't mean that we are like the sounds or like the smells, they don't exist anymore around us. It's just that they are there, but we are kind of withdrawn, and we are not focusing on them. They are like kind of in the background, but we are not distracting us anymore. And that's kind of the base for the meditation, because if we don't have that withdrawal of the senses, if we are constantly distracting us, it's impossible to even start meditation. And then the next way to practice it is just trying to practicing closing your eyes in the asana practice. So if you've been, I think, in one of the first practices where we did the tree pose, when we are spending a bit more time in one pose, you can always try closing your eyes and drawing the attention inwards, and testing your balance maybe, or just focusing inwards rather than to the outside. Another way to practice pratyahara is digital detox, or like kind of disconnecting from the social media, because that's a constant distraction and kind of a dopamine kind of hit that we get from our phones. So just spending some time, or maybe a day or a few days without technology, or at least without our phone, is a very nice way to draw that attention inwards, and kind of like start hearing your own thoughts, because technology constantly takes that attention from us to the outside. And the same with a silence practice. So just for a little bit, like even if you just go on a walk, try to spend some time in silence, and that already brings your attention to your own mind. And the last one is yoga nidra. So it's like a yogic sleep, like conscious sleep. So it's like also like a meditation practice where you're laying down, but you're not really sleeping, but you are in that state in between sleep and being awake. And that's really, it's a really relaxing practice. And you might notice that like the effect is similar to Shavasana, maybe even a bit deeper, because Yoga Nidra is usually a longer practice. So like 40, maybe 45 minutes of this relaxation. So that really helps to practice Pratyahara in Yoga Nidra, and like also relax your body and mind. And and then the last three are kind of meditative principles. So it is Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. Samadhi being the enlightenment. And Dharana, I think that's where we would spend most of our time. Like when we think about meditation, this is like a very long practice before we get to that state where we imagine the meditation is. Because like the real meditation is when we imagine that there's no thoughts, or like nothing like is kind of distracting us. But before that, we need to go through this concentration practice, which is dharana, and focusing on a single object. So this is like another step in preparation for meditation. And as I mentioned before, Trataka, so it's a meditation with a candle flame. So if like people who have ADHD or any like attention kind of disorders, if it's very difficult to concentrate, and if it's impossible for you to just to sit in a meditation when you constantly feel distracted, the first step could be this meditation with a candle flame, and just putting like on a candle and just watching the flame for maybe 5 minutes at first, then you can start increasing to 10 minutes and or 15 minutes, but just focusing on the candle flame and kind of tuning out like everything else that's happening around. And yeah, people with ADHD, they say that that's the practice that can really help when you're trying to get into the meditation. Another way to practice could be walking meditation. So as you see, meditation doesn't have to be formal, like always sitting in with cross-legged, sorry, with your legs crossed. And it can be practiced while walking as well. But just if you practice walking meditation, so obviously you're not talking and you're just focusing on your steps. So you can just you can do counting like 1, 2, 1, 2, or you can use a specific mantra while walking. But just like focusing on that action of walking and your feet moving on the floor. Another way to practice dharana is finding an object in the nature. So it could be just a tree, and you can see that like how the wind is blowing the leaves, how the leaves are moving. Could be waves if you live near the sea, or the river flowing, whatever you have around you, or just like a rain when it's raining. It's raining a lot in the UK, so that's one of the ways to practice, just watching how the raindrops are falling on the window. And then another way that that's like a practice that I really like is focusing on the breath. So it's this Zen concentration meditation, where you're just sitting in a meditative position, and just like with your eyes closed, you're watching your breath, and that's the only thing that you need to do. You're just like, you can also like count like 1, 2, 3, 4, you count to 10 and then start again. It sounds very easy, but it's if you try it, it's actually very difficult, because you notice how you lose your attention after maybe 5 counts, and then you need to come back, and you need to constantly bring yourself back. So even though these practices look very simple, you're focusing just on one thing, but our attention and our mind has a tendency to wander. So you need to constantly bring it back and develop your concentration this way. And that's when after like long time of practicing this, you can get into the meditation. Yeah, and then another way to practice this is also sitting in a meditation or laying down and focusing on a bodily sensation. So whatever I'm feeling in my body, like am I feeling any tension? Like am I feeling like itchy, or whatever I'm feeling in my body, just like observing what's happening. And also observing your thoughts. So if you imagine your thoughts as clouds, so like they might come in as a cloud, you observe that it's there, that it came to your mind, but you're not kind of holding on to it, and you're not spiraling with that one thought. You're just letting it pass, like you imagine it as a cloud, and it just passes through your mind. It might come back, but you're just like, your only job is to focus on what's coming and observing it. And the last way is to practice dharana is mantra meditation. So it could be like it could also be an affirmation. Doesn't have to be a Sanskrit mantra, but there are loads of different mantras that you can meditate with. And if you've seen like this kind of like a necklace that or like that looks like rosary, but like these kind of beads that yogis meditate with. So like once you say like a mantra, once you like you kind of take one bead and so on and so on, and it has this japa mala has 108 beads, and so basically you don't need to count. You just say a mantra once, and you're just using this necklace to count. So that can also be a practice of dharana. So concentrating just on the mantra, or just one affirmation, or just one word that is important for you at that time. And the last two are dhyana. So that is the meditation, like the formal meditation where we like how we imagine meditation as like that. It's not the absence of thoughts, but it's like that peace of mind without distraction. So it's like a flow, like that flow in that meditative state without our mind like being distracted. So but in order to reach dhyana, we have to put a lot of work in all the other steps, all the other limbs, to be able to reach this point. So some yogis say that a teacher can help you to get to here, to dharana, but then everything after you have to do it yourself. Like no teacher can kind of teach you or take you to the state, because the work happens inside our mind. So just through a lot of practice of concentration, we can get to this meditative state. And then once we spend a lot of time in a meditative state, we might get to samadhi, which is enlightenment, or kind of the bliss, this blissful state where we start seeing the world as it is, without any mind games, like any filters or any programs that we usually see the world through, because everyone sees the world through their own lens. So how the samadhi state is described, because I don't know, I haven't reached that yet, but how it's described, it's when you don't need, or you don't see the world through your own like filter, but you see it as it is, without any judgments or any past experiences or programs that you have in your mind. Yeah, so just to kind of reiterate, basically we don't need to, this doesn't need to be our goal. Like we don't need to strive for enlightenment, but all the other practices like the meditation, pranayama, asana, and the moral and ethical principles that we can bring into our daily lives, and that already helps us to have a more inner peace, more peaceful kind of life in general. And with all these practices, I'm not kind of telling you like to follow each one of them, but just take whatever resonates and leave whatever doesn't, because I'm sure there are some helpful tools, or like maybe mindset tips or philosophy tips that we can apply in our daily lives. And hopefully now, like, you see that yoga is kind of everywhere, and we can practice it everywhere, every day. It doesn't have to be on the mat. And usually I think even the most important practice, it doesn't happen on the mat. It doesn't have to be an asana practice. The most important yoga practice can be just doing something nice for someone else, saying something nice to another person, or just focusing on your breath, or like observing your thoughts, or just like doing some breath work. So it doesn't have to be on the mat. And yeah, hopefully we can after this like we all have like a more like broader understanding of what yoga is and how to practice in our daily lives and how to apply them, those principles. So thank you. And hopefully that was useful. And if anyone has any questions or any insights or anything new that you've heard, I'm happy to hear about it. Or if you want to message me later, that's fine as well. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Hopefully that was a time well spent. And yeah, let's practice yoga off the mat as well. And have a good evening, everyone.